Hi, the name of our story today is Curious George by H.A. Ray. There he is. Looks like he's with is that a fireman or a policeman? I'm not sure. Let's see what happens. This is George. George lived in Africa, and he was a good little monkey, and he was always very curious. And what did he like to eat? That's right, bananas. One day, George saw a man. Oh, there he is. He had on a large yellow straw hat. The man saw George too. What a nice little monkey. I would like to take you home with me. And of course, George was curious. He came down from the tree to look at the large yellow hat. There he is. He is curious, isn't he? That hat had been on the man's head. George thought it would be nice to have it on his own head, so he picked it up and tried it on. Oh, is it too big or too little? I think it's too big. There, my goodness, look at that. The hat covered George's head and he couldn't see. The man picked him up so quickly and popped him into a bag. George was caught. You think he's happy or sad? Or afraid? Not sure. I think he's surprised. Oh, look at this. The man with the big yellow hat put George on a little boat, and a sailor rowed them out to a big ship. George was sad, but he still was a little bit curious. Wonder where we're going on that big boat. On the big ship, things began to happen. Here we go. The man took off the bag, and George sat on a stool, and the man said, George, I'm going to take you to a big zoo in the city, and you will like it there. Now run along and play, and don't get into trouble. George promised to be good, but it is easy for little monkeys to forget. Wonder what he's going to do. On the deck, he found some seagulls, and he wondered how in the world could they fly. Look at that. Finally, he had to try it. It looked easy, but, what do you think's going to happen? I think you're right. First this, and then this. Tried to fly, and he fell in the water. You think he can swim? Where's George? The sailors looked and looked, and at last they saw him struggling in the water, almost tired out. He was swimming and swimming. Man overboard, the sailors cried as they threw him a life belt. George caught it and held on. At last he was safe on board. Looks like he got a lot of water in his mouth. And maybe some fish. Ugh. After that, George was more careful to be a good monkey until at last the long trip was over. He said goodbye to the good sailors, and he and the man with the yellow hat walked off the ship and into a city where his new house was. Let's see what that's going to be like. Oh my goodness. And after a very good meal and a good pipe, George felt very tired. Oh my goodness. I can't believe he got to do all of that. He crawled into bed and fell asleep right away. Oh, there he is, sound asleep. The next day, the man telephoned the zoo. George watched him with fascination. Then the man went away, and George was curious. He wanted to be on the phone too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He was calling too. What fun. Let's see who he called. Ring, ring, ring. Oh no. George had called the fire station by accident. Hello, hello, said the fireman. There was no answer. Then they looked for the signal on a big map that showed them where the call had come from. They didn't know it was George. They thought it was a real fire. Uh-oh, that's not good. Hurry, hurry, hurry. The firemen jumped on their ladders and on their hook and ladder trucks. Ding-a-ling-a-ling. Everyone, out of the way. Hurry, hurry, hurry. They were headed to a fire. They rushed in the door, but there was no fire. Uh-oh, only a naughty little monkey. Oh, catch him, they all said. George tried to run away, and he almost got away, but he got caught in the telephone wire. Oh, my goodness, look at that. The fireman caught one arm. Another fireman caught the other. You fooled the fire department. We will have to put you where you cannot do any harm anymore. And they took him away and put him in jail. Oh, no. Poor George. George wanted to get out. He climbed up to the window and tried the bars. But the watchman came in. He got on the wooden bed to catch George, and it was too heavy. Oh, and look at that. It fell on top of him. And quick as lightning, George ran out the open door. He is curious, isn't he? He hurried through the building and out the roof, and lucky that he was a monkey, he climbed up on the telephone wires, and quickly and quietly over the guard's head, George walked away. He was free. Uh-oh. He went down the street, and there was a little girl. A little girl bought a balloon for her brother. George watched, and he was curious. He felt he must have a bright red balloon. He reached over and tried to help himself. But what do you think's going to happen? I don't know. Let's see what happens. Instead of one balloon, the whole bunch of balloons broke loose. And in an instant, the wind whisked him away, and he was holding on with both hands. Uh-oh. Up it sailed, higher and higher, until all the houses looked like toy houses, and the people looked like little dolls. George was frightened, and he held on very tight. At first, there were wind blew and blew, and then it got very quiet. George got tired, and he went down with a bump on the top of a traffic light. Uh-oh, look. The traffic got all mixed up, and he didn't know what to do until he heard someone call, "George!" And then he saw his friend. Can you see his friend? That's right. There he is, in the big yellow hat. George was so happy. The man was happy too. George slid down the post, and the man with the yellow hat put him under his arm. He paid the balloon man for all the balloons, and George and the man climbed back in the car and went away fast. Okay, he is very curious, isn't he? Where do you think they were going? I don't know. To the zoo. And what a nice place that was for George. He had lots of friends there, and he brought all of his friends a balloon. Thank you for reading with me. The name of our story was Curious George. Bye.